Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. With Narendra Modi working on his first cabinet and the BJP preparing a massive welcome when he reaches Delhi, it's assumed he's going to be the next Prime Minister. So tonight we ask, what sort of Prime Minister will Narendra Modi make? Will he be strong and decisive, or could he also be authoritarian? What does his motto, minimum government, maximum governance, amount to? And how far-reaching could be the changes that await India? 24 hours before the picture begins, here's your chance for a well-informed preview. And now joining me to answer the question, what sort of Prime Minister would Mr. Modi be, is the former editor of The Hindu, Siddharth Varadarajan, the editor of Mail Today, Sandeep Bamzai, the former president of FICCI, Rajyavardhan Kanoria, and author and columnist Gurcharan Das. Later in part 2, I shall also be joined by the well-known theatre director Amir Raza Hussain and the celebrity author, editor and columnist Shobha De. Sandeep Bamzai, let's start with Mr. Modi's personality and the manner in which that could condition and influence the prime ministership that he may be forming tomorrow. He's said to be energetic, he's said to be forceful, decisive. Do you fear that he might also be authoritarian? Do you agree with some of those who are worried that he might at times be dictatorial?
If you look at the way he's run his campaign, it's been tireless. He's been absolutely tireless. It's been a bruising campaign, but he's been there at the very cutting edge, practically every day, doing 5 rallies a day, 6 rallies a day, clocking miles. Here is a man who is obviously hungry for the job. Contrast this with the Congress prime ministerial candidate Rahul Gandhi, who never seemed to have the stomach for a fight. So a man who wants the job badly. So if he wants this job badly, and he has a proven track record of development,
but
decent
I'll come to the track
administration.
record later. What about this belief that he's a forceful personality and a decisive personality, and the fear that he may be authoritarian?
I think the lines blur somewhere. Decisive leadership could also be pragmatic and could also be authoritarian at times. But then we've flirted with that in the past. Mrs. Gandhi was equally authoritarian, and she ruled this country for 16 years.
You know, in fact, Mr. Kanoria, that comparison with Indira Gandhi is a very interesting one, because not only was Indira Gandhi said to be the last forceful prime minister, but practically every assessment of her comes to the conclusion that the country liked that quality in particular. Do you believe that Indians like what I call the smack of firm government? And if that's what we get from Mr. Modi, it would be pretty welcome.
You know, I think you have to look at authoritarian in a positive context rather than in a negative context. And I think we need a government which is decisive, which is clear-headed, which can take decisions without ambiguity and convey the message that is required for investors, for business, for the country, that we mean to bring the country back to its potential that it has of growth, of dynamism, of job creation.
Okay.
And I think to that extent the word authoritarian should be used in the positive context as someone who is very decisive and clear-headed. So I would look at it very positively, because my family, I mean, I've been in Gujarat since 1955, and my personal experience in my own business with Gujarat has been since 1983. And I can tell you that despite the fact that Mr. Modi has been very accessible as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, I've never really had to go to him, because there is a decentralized mechanism which works efficiently. Business doesn't have to keep running to any politician to get work done. And I think that's really what we want in this country.
Mr. Gurcharan Das, you've just heard Mr. Kanoria, former president of FICCI, saying that in fact there's a positive aspect to authoritarian. It doesn't have to be seen simply in a negative manner, and decisive leadership, strong leadership is always welcome. Now, Mr. Modi has a track record of 12 years as Chief Minister of Gujarat, and he's got a lot of praise from industry for the way he's actually handled that 12-year period. What do you think his response as Prime Minister, if he does become PM, will be to the traditional red tape, the slow-moving files, the interminably long decision-making process that characterizes governance in Delhi? How will he respond to that?
Well, let's hope he will cut some of that red tape. And that's precisely what we need. We have seen in the last 10 years a situation where we had a very bright, intelligent Prime Minister, a very affable Prime Minister who has been a failure. And so now I think the lesson from this is that we overvalue intelligence and we do not give enough value to determination. Determination doesn't have to be authoritarian. Determination is what you need to do reforms, to reform institutions. And I mean, I personally think that he's a much closer, the analogy would be to Margaret Thatcher than to Indira Gandhi, who did subvert institutions during the emergency.
All right.
And I personally think that Indian democracy now is strong enough which will not allow this kind of subversion that Indira Gandhi did.
We have a very interesting consensus amongst my three guests. Everyone agrees that there is a potential to be authoritarian, but they all also believe that there's a positive side to authoritarianism and not necessarily just a negative. But there is one concern. Mr. Modi hasn't just been the face of the campaign. Virtually many people have said they voted for Modi rather than the BJP. Does that mean that now, from this position of almost near supremacy in his party, there is no check on him? And does that worry you, that he'll be untrammeled, there'll be no person strong enough within the BJP to stand up to him?
The fact that Modi is seen as somebody who is insular is a reality. The fact that the BJP has probably been subsumed by the personality of Modi in this campaign again is a reality. I would think that the BJP on its own, despite double incumbency, would not have got more than 150, 160
This
seats.
is my point. That means
the tipping point.
Is there anyone in the BJP who can now stand up to Modi?
I think we're missing the wood for the trees. I think we need to understand that Modi, as the Prime Minister of India, will understand the platform that he has, will probably take a step back as far as his own character is concerned, and I think will be operating through a collective whole and not as an individual.
In other words,
only.
what you're saying is, from this position of supremacy, he will be magnanimous and actually encompass even dissidents in his party rather than sideline them.
I would think that he has transposed the learnings of not just these last 12 years in Gujarat, but also from this campaign. I think those learnings would be transposed by Modi himself, and you will see a clearly different Modi who will carry a team with him. He has to do that.
Siddharth Varadarajan, we're discussing how Mr. Modi's personality, how the dominance that he's achieved in the last 6 months within the BJP will influence him if he does become Prime Minister, and what impact it will have on the way he exercises the office and the power of that office. Do you see any fledgling problems in the fact that TV this evening is reporting that Sushma Swaraj is said to be, according to sources, sulking, that LK Advani should be given, sources say, a Sonia-like role? Are those attempts to try and check Mr. Modi, or are those just teething problems that inevitably happen? Siddharth Varadarajan? I don't think Siddharth can hear me. Let me very quickly...
Okay, I'm sorry, the line is really bad. The connection is very bad. I can hear you now. I heard it.
Do you believe that the teething problems that are being aired on television this evening, sources saying that Sushma Swaraj is sulking, that some other sources are claiming that Mr. Advani should be given a Sonia-like role, are those just teething problems that are inevitable when there's a transition like this happening, or do you see them as bigger problems that might balloon when the Modi administration gets underway?
Well, they reflect the fact that the entire old guard, the power structure within the BJP as we knew it, the Delhi power structure, has had to make way for something new, and this displacement is not without its without its pain. Obviously, in the case of Advani, who was Deputy Prime Minister when Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, he cannot aspire to have anything of that kind of a role. My sense is that obviously the RSS would want an honourable sort of settlement. Sushma Swaraj is pushing for that. I don't think these problems will run beyond the first week or so. Perhaps even earlier they would be settled.
Okay.
More complicated would be what kind of a role would Sushma herself have, within the Modi administration.
Absolutely. Let's move on beyond the manner in which Mr. Modi's personality will influence the way he handles his office and come, Mr. Kanoria, to some of the challenges that he will face. To begin with, Mr. Modi is new to Delhi. He's never been a member of the central government before. But secondly, many, if not most, of the BJP MPs that will be coming will also be new to the role that they have to play. Does that suggest that, in fact, the Modi government could get off to a shaky or bumpy start until it finds its feet more firmly?
See, I can talk from the economic point of view. I think the biggest challenge that he is going to inherit is the lack of confidence that we are having today as a business community. And from the political point of view, it's quite obvious that on the one hand, he brings the experience of having been a chief minister. If you remember, Narasimha Rao was probably the only other prime minister of the country who had the chief ministerial experience, and we know what he delivered. So I don't think that administratively Modi would find it difficult to maneuver the contours of Delhi, but within his own party, as Siddharth has suggested, I think they will need to evolve what exactly is going to be the power structure within the party to actually allow him to function effectively.
Okay.
But the problems which he is going to face is, number one, the fiscal deficit which he
just let me stop you there. I'll go into those problems later. I don't want to go into economic issues just now. I'm still talking about the challenges that his government as a whole will face before we break it down into individual subjects. Let's come to individual subjects in a moment's time. One of the things Mr. Gurcharan Das that Mr. Modi has repeatedly said is to characterize Delhi as the Delhi Sultanate. It's a phrase that suggests that he looks upon the central government as distant, sometimes unfriendly, sometimes even as alien. Do you believe that he approaches the job of Prime Minister with a certain attitude of suspicion or questioning to the way it's been functioning up till now? Do you think he's looking to radically change the central government, and could he face resistance from established bureaucrats and established vested interests?
Well, I think that's his positive card. He's an outsider. He's fresh, and so he will not be hindered by some of the conventional wisdom, and be willing to cut the red tape and the ambivalence of Delhi in that way. His biggest and his strongest suit is that he's an implementer. And therefore, the first thing he should do is to lower the expectations. They're very, very high right now. And because things like inflation will take time to ameliorate, growth will take time. And I would say he can move fast because of his ability to implement.
Can I stop you there? Can I stop you there? You're expressing. Can I stop you for a moment? You're expressing
purpose to the bureaucracy.
You're expressing confidence in his ability to move fast because he's an implementer. But if his approach to the central government is to see it as the Delhi Sultanate and want to change established conventions and practices, and one of the things he's committed to is sweeping administrative reform, could he face resistance from the bureaucracy, which may not be in keeping with his desire to change established conventions and practices? Is that a problem that he has to challenge, a challenge that he has to face?
Well, I mean, he has done it in Gujarat. What he has is a highly motivated cadre of civil servants in Gujarat who are very happy with his leadership. And I think that's what he will try to bring talented people, proven people in key roles, and then use them, give them. Today, our bureaucracy is divided, is ambivalent because there were two power centers. Now he'll make it very clear, and if you give the bureaucracy a sense of purpose, it always performs. We saw that when the Narasimha Rao administration, Narasimha Rao and A.N. Verma made the reforms happen.
Well, he's absolutely right when he says Narasimha Rao and A.N. Verma, Vajpayee and Brajesh Mishra. There are many such examples. The people that Mr. Modi from the bureaucracy has worked closest with are those who are his team in Gujarat. Do you think he's going to bring many of them here?
Oh, I most certainly think that people like Kailash Nathan, Murmu, these guys are definitely going to be coming here and being part of the PMO.
How
Undoubtedly.
easily will they fit in?
I don't see a problem. I'll tell you why. Because there is a job at hand. The tasks are demarcated. Here is a man who is very clear about what he wants to do. He has a plan. Make no mistake, he has a plan even before he becomes the Prime Minister. That plan is going to be rolled out. So that plan could well be building roads. That plan could well be changing the face of the superstructure or the apparatus that runs the government.
And the Gujarat bureaucracy is central to the implementation of that plan.
I think some of the key officials in the Chief Minister's office will definitely be relocating to Delhi. Make no mistake.
And will the Gujarat bureaucracy then help him bring the Delhi bureaucracy, if they're resistant, online?
The point that you made about being authoritarian, I think the bureaucracy will see that face.
And fall in line.
And fall in line.
What about Siddharth Vardarajan, the RSS? It's always a shadow that looms over the shoulder of BJP Prime Ministers. From time to time, it used to impinge upon Mr. Vajpayee's authority, particularly in the early years of Mr. Vajpayee. How much of a check or challenge will they be to Mr. Modi? Or do you think Mr. Modi, who stood up to them in Gujarat, will equally effectively stand up to them in Delhi as well?
Well, it depends what kind of demands they put on Mr. Modi. If they want some of the issues that have been relatively sidelined in the manifesto, for example, the Ram Temple or Article 370, if they want rapid movement on those kinds of subjects, I don't think they're going to get very far, quite frankly, because these are not issues or diversions that Mr. Modi will want to deal with at this moment. But if they engage, if they want to pursue what I call a low voltage agenda, a book ban here, pressure on movie producers, the sort of the cultural agenda. Now, the cultural agenda was something that even the Congress party at the center found very hard to resist when all kinds of busybodies wanted a book banned or a movie withdrawn.
Oh, we've lost Siddharth Vardarajan at that point. I'm really sorry. We're having terrible trouble with that particular connection to Siddharth.
I think there's a point that needs to be made here, that even within the BJP and its relationship with the RSS in recent times, there's been a massive transformation that has taken place. The top deck leadership of the BJP now is essentially Narendra Modi, Rajnath Singh, Arun Jaitley. And you have Mr. Mohan Bhagwat at the RSS as the supremo of the RSS, and other people like Dattatreya Hosbale, etc. within the RSS. These are much younger people within the RSS. They're not fuddy-duddies who are...
So they can't lean on Modi?
I don't think it's about leaning on Modi. I think there is a tacit understanding between the RSS top deck and the BJP top deck that power has to be seized. This is the moment. Modi is the face.
What you're saying is that we won't have a repeat of what happened with Mr. Vajpayee when he wanted to make Jaswant Singh finance minister and couldn't.
So. I don't think so.
What about something else, Mr. Kanoria? The BJP manifesto has said that one of the hallmarks of the new government will be a deliberate attempt to open up the government to what they call expertise from industry, from academia, from society. Do you see that happening easily, and would you welcome it if it does?
I would welcome it completely. I mean, again, I'll go back to what Narasimha Rao had done when he brought in Dr. Manmohan Singh as finance minister. I mean, he was actually an academic at that point of time, and we all know that together they actually managed to push this country into what it is today. It's unfortunate that in the last 5 years the UPA 2 government has not delivered what was possible to deliver, but at the same time, I mean, the simple point I'm trying to make is that it is possible to bring in people from outside and give them positions of power because they have the inherent knowledge, the expertise and the competence to actually think out the problems that we have.
Can I ask you something at that point?
I mean, I don't want to name I don't want to name any names, but there, informally there are a lot of rumors going around about the position of economic ministries, which might be taken by people from outside. So I think that it's a good idea to actually have expertise in the government.
You actually half answered the question I wanted to interrupt and put to you. Do you believe that senior industrialists and senior academics would be willing to join a Modi administration provided he gave them a challenging and inviting offer? Do you think there are people who are willing to now step across and govern the country alongside Mr. Modi? A quick answer.
Yes, I think there are. There are people who would be willing to do that.
Something else, Mr. Gurcharan Das, new governments like to begin with a bang. It helps set the tone, it helps symbolically establish them from the word go. And clearly Mr. Modi has been preparing for this moment, assuming it is his moment tomorrow, for months. Do you therefore expect a surprise dramatic announcement that will capture the attention of the country and in a sense set the tone for the next 5 years?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if such an announcement came. I mean, one such announcement could be the abolition of about 100 laws which are obsolete and useless. And that's been something that has been talked about somewhat. But I still believe the most important announcement that he has to make is to lower expectations. This Modi wave that we have seen is a result of lots of people who do not subscribe to the Hindu nationalist agenda, who've been persuaded to vote for Modi. That's why you have this wave. And somebody like me, who finds the Hindu nationalist agenda unappealing totally, I have endorsed Modi precisely because I believe that we need to create 10 million jobs a year, and he's the best chance we have to do that in order to get the demographic dividend.
All right. You have Mr. Gurcharan Das saying he wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Modi begins with a surprise dramatic announcement. Given that so many people have written over the years about how there is apprehension in the hearts of minorities and Muslims in particular, do you think Mr. Modi in his very first day or first 2 days might actually make an announcement reassuring minorities in particular and biting that bullet and then laying that problem to rest? Do you think that might be one area of a surprise announcement?
That may be the case, but I'm not going to bet on that. But I think you will clearly see an agenda being set
from the word go.
From the word go, and I think that you will see a massive road building program which will again generate employment. Jobs are going to be at the very core of his agenda.
So the surprise announcement, if there is one, will be economic oriented.
Most definitely, because let's understand, why is India voting for him? There is fatigue against the Congress party. There is fatigue because they've been in power for 10 years and people think that prices have gone through the roof.
And that's what he has to tackle first.
He has to tackle that. The messaging is the key. Look at two messages that he sent out in the last few days. One subliminal and the other direct. The first message was that in a 42-page manifesto, the Ram Temple was on page 41, limited to 3 lines. The second message was the one that he sent yesterday, that he called the top deck BJP leadership to Gandhinagar,
asserting his authority.
Absolutely.
Right?
So if that is authoritarian,
came to Muhammad,
so if that is authoritarian,
mountain,
that is authoritarian, then that is Modi.
All right. Strong, decisive,
Yes.
clear, a quick message at the beginning.
Absolutely.
He's not going to brook interference. He'll bring his own bureaucrats and he'll make sure that Delhi falls in line.
Yeah.